Welcome back to our virtual summit here. This is a panel we've got. We're talking about creating diversity on our team. As you can see, you're watching here. This one is previously recorded because I'm not wearing the same clothes that I am today. So we recorded this a couple of days ago, and but we're bringing a bunch of great stuff to you today. We've got Alana and Juliana. I'm Pat Curran, again, one of the co-founders here at the Sports Biz Network. Alana, why don't you start here, describe or talk to us about who you are, what you do, and why you're specifically on this panel.
Yeah, thank you so much for having Juliana and I on here. My name is Alana Meraz, and I am the founder of Latinx in Sports. We are a community that strives to create opportunities within networking, mentorship, panels, and all things like that for the Latinx sports community for professionals already in the industry and those that are up and coming. I started it in October of 2020 with Juliana, just because I didn't really see a community for Latinx sports professionals, and it was definitely something I wish I would have had in college, and I wanted to provide to students that were now in college and even those that were already established in their career, just to meet one another. And aside from that, I recently started a position with the U.S. Soccer Federation as fan experience coordinator, which is super exciting. I will be right now in Texas, which is why we're recording this before.
Right.
But yeah, as fan experience coordinator, I run a lot of our insiders program, making sure that everything is ran smoothly, that they have all their experiences ready and all, things that we provide for them at the games as well. And obviously, as things start opening now with COVID, we'll be able to provide more experiences, and I'm super excited.
Awesome. We're excited to have you on, and I appreciate you doing that. Juliana?
Yeah, echoing Alana, thank you so much for giving us a platform to speak a little bit on diversity, since that's something we're really, really passionate about, especially since we started Latinx. So like she said, October, that's when everything kind of went down. It started off as me just being her right hand. We were just know what we're doing, and it's kind of and I don't think we ever expected the growth of Latinx to be what it is now. We celebrated our 6-month anniversary with having Javier Gutierrez of the Arizona Coyotes as our speaker, which is something we would have never thought when we started as a Twitter page back then. I call myself her right hand, but my official title is Chief Community Officer with Latinx in Sports. Alana's really good at doing the networking and being the face of it, and I think I'm a little more logistic on that portion. So rolling out our mentorship program that's coming out soon, doing a little bit more of thinking a little more on the strategy long-term side of things, and Alana's good at making sure it's on track, basically. My day job is I work as an account manager for STN Digital, which is a sports and entertainment agency based out of San Diego. So doing a lot of cool things on social media. I get paid to tweet, which is always a blast. But yeah, that's a little about us.
As far as members and people that are on these panels, for you guys, not the people that come and speak, what types of roles and places are these people from? Is it more younger audience? Is it fresh out of college, or is it all the way up to 60-year-olds in the sports world? Because what are when some of these groups reach out to you, what are they looking for? Hey, we're looking for a high level position, or entry level, or somewhere in the middle, or is it all of the above?
It's all of the above.
Yeah, it really is.
Good, yeah.
It really is all of the above. I know that was something when we were first creating our board. They were like, hey, what is the target market here that you're trying to, is it people that are straight out of college? Because Juliana and I had just come out of grad school, and Juliana was on her second year of being full-time employee. So we're still very much new, and still are, obviously, because I'm in my first month of being full-time ever, just super exciting. But I remember telling our board, I was like, I want it to be for everybody. If you're a Latinx sports professional and you've had 15 years of experience, but you still want to meet other people, that's what we're here for. And if you're, you're still in college or coming out of college, like you said, Pat, it's about who you know. So it's really just about how we could connect these 2 points in your career, really, with each other. Because I think that's another thing too is, and it's one of the reasons why the mentorship program is really coming about, is it's overwhelming to network. And there's definitely a stigma behind it. It's that cold email, that LinkedIn message, what do I do? And we just had a workshop last month about networking. And it was hey, we were taught this one way in college, tell you that's not it. It's this whole other way of being authentic and non-transactional. So really just trying to somehow connect those 2 has been super important for us.
Yeah, you kind of froze up. Did she freeze up on your end, Juliana?
Yeah, she did.
I heard most of it though, but you're back.
Oh, no.
But I basically heard what you said. It was,
Okay.
the networking can be tough. And a lot of times that LinkedIn message it's a transactional thing. It's like, hey, I'm reaching out to you because I want something. It's not real authentic relationship networking, which I think is so important. And like you said, in college, I'm long gone from college. I got my master's in 2010, so 11 years ago. But a lot of that stuff that I learned is still being taught today. And the networking is still similar to what it was or what it is now with what you guys are doing. And why we created this Sports Biz Network is to help facilitate some of those conversations. Have panels like you guys are having. This is our virtual summit. This is our launch that we started. But we'll have panels and discussions frequently, weekly, monthly, around different topics. Some may be relevant to what you guys care about, some may not be, but we want to have these conversations so you can get on and actually talk to somebody who works at the Arizona Coyotes or works at the LA Kings or name the place across the country or across the world, and to be able to have an actual conversation and actually put a face to a name and not just reach out and be like, hey, I saw you work at US Soccer. Can I talk to you? And it's, but that's what so many people do. I get hit in my DMs. I have a guy right now in my DMs who hit me up this morning and was like, hey, I've got a question for you, but I know what the question is. I know what he wants. He wants something from me. Then I'll get on there and I'll have a conversation with him. And I'll give him what he wants. But at the same time, if he came to me and was just like, hey, I got an idea for you, or brought some value to me, it'd be so much more likely that if I was looking to hire someone, he could be a potential person that I would hire. So that's a long-winded thing to say, like, I agree. And tools like what we're creating here at our Sports Biz Network and tools like Twitter and Instagram can be real authentic conversations. It doesn't have to be transactional BS like it is so often.
Social is such a game changer. Like,
Yeah.
Obviously I work in social, so I probably consume more of it than like a lot of people do. But Alana and I literally met through social media. Like, we had never met until, when was it? January. And we had already created Latinx. Like, most of the people that we have brought onto our board, like everyone in our, like, everything is social based. Like, that is what our bread and butter is creating community through social media. That is our main source of communication with people. And we still get DMs to this day. Like, we're still growing. Like, we're still not where we want to be, like, numbers wise, but like, we have grad students who reach out to us and they're like, thank you so much, because this makes, like, it takes a lot of pressure off of us when we reach out to professionals, or even like people that are C-level, like executives to VPs, are like, we wish we would have had this when we were going through.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the higher level execs, they're like, it's our time to give back. And we're like, we know what's wrong with the industry and we want to be able to target what is wrong and like bring solutions. And we can do that through like targeting all the younger people in this group. Like, there's, in our networking calls, it's very informal. Like, we're literally on Zoom chats like this, basically breakout rooms, and you can have like a VP on there to someone who's like in their junior year of college.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is. And that's part of why we keep it super informal, because it's a very non-pressurized situation for those younger people to meet these people that they've probably always wanted to LinkedIn DM that you just never want to. So that's part of the joy of social media, really. Like, obviously there's a lot of toxicity in it. I see it on a day-to-day, but always coming back to Latinx and like saying that's how literally how we built our group and the positives that come out of it. Like, it is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, this whole deal, all this stuff, our conversation all through Twitter. I mean, it's the opportunities through Twitter. Yes, there's a lot of toxic BS on Twitter too, on Instagram and all the social platforms, but there's a lot of really good ways you can navigate this stuff too. So let's transition then. If you are someone Latinx, in that mold, how can you be able to create more opportunities for yourself? And we talked, I mean, social obviously is probably part of this. You guys talk to your members about, here's some things you can be doing to put yourself in a position to be hired, or if you already do have a job, here's how you can seek a higher job or the job you really want to be at, or whatever that may be.
Yeah, I think we really speak a lot on like personal branding, because I know that that's something that a lot of people, like Juliana said, like social media is super important. and going back to it, like that's how Latinx in sports came about. Like being Latina and being in the sports industry, like that was part of what's important to me. And I highlighted one Latinx sports professional every single day of Hispanic Heritage Month. And then all of a sudden came this, and it's great. And that's how people like knew me then. It was like, oh yeah, you highlighted all these people. I saw it on my Twitter feed. And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, you put yourself in a position where then like people see you as like that person in a good way, right? Like it's like a positive reflection of like what your values are and like what you're interested in. So I think like that's something that's super important that a lot of people sometimes don't really think about. It's like, if you are tweeting out like something that's relatable or something that you're passionate about, like the connections that you can make through that is, you know, like they're authentic. Like if you love the WNBA and like there's somebody else who loves the WNBA, maybe you don't work in it yet, but you talk about it, just like your hat. Yeah. Like, you know, like it's finding those different ways to be relatable to somebody else and then like building those authentic connections, I think is like super important. And like, I think that's how you continue creating those opportunities, because then like someone gets to know you and they'll think of you the next time that maybe they see a volunteer opportunity or a job. They'll be like, hey, I saw this, you know, situation. Like if you want to apply, I know someone there. Like I know that's something that when I talk to young professionals or when our board does too, they're always like, if I see a job, like, what are you interested in? Because if I see a job that meets that, like, I'll send it to you and I can put in a good word for you. Like Juliana said, all of the professionals and the C executives and above that we have, like, they're always so willing to like come back and help those that are still looking for entry level positions or even like internships so that we can continue growing representation within the industry.
Sure. Anything to add to that, Juliana?
I think it's also, we talk about this often on our calls, and Alana and I talk about this often. She's really good at networking. I am not. Like there's, like she said, there's a stigma about it. And in Hispanic culture, you don't like asking people for favors. Like that is something that we collectively as a Latinx group talk about all the time, like the difficulties of that. And I've had to get over that. Like the pandemic was very difficult, and I found 2 new jobs during the pandemic actually. And those were literally through like relationships that I made and having those people like egg me on to do things. And to this day, Alana still has to tell me like, it's okay to reach out to someone, like you're not bothering them. And that's a point that we have to like make all the time to other people in the group, because they're feeling the exact same way. And even just like hearing it from people, like hearing it from those people that you're going to be reaching out to, like it's something that we're trying to like break down, honestly, because there is an innate fear, and like there are people that aren't going to respond to you. That's just the realities of networking. But kind of understanding like culturally like where we come from, and to be able to have that discussion with other people who look like us and speak like us and like come from the same like background is always super empowering, and it makes you feel like not as embarrassed or scared about like your thought process to a certain degree.
Sure, that makes sense. From a company, a brand standpoint, we see a lot of stuff on social and pieces they create and you know, hire these types of people and do these types of things, and a lot of that is for show. We know that. And then you can look on their board and they all look like me, right? And then they like throw in maybe one other person that doesn't, and you're like 15 people on the board. Anyway, that's a convo for another day. Specifically, we're talking about specific brands, because I could name names, but we're not going to do that today. But you know, a lot of it is for show. How can we get more companies to be actually doing the things that we're on here discussing today, creating diversity on their team?
I think personally for me, if teams looked at their fan base and the people that want to interact with them, they would see that it goes past just the typical fan base that they think they need to speak to. Like, for example, we can, you know, go back to Javier Gutierrez in Arizona, huge Latino population. We all know that. Mm-hmm. Huge opportunity for revenue. And I really hope, and I see it, the steps he's taking now, but in the next few years, like to tap into the Latino population that is interested in hockey. So like, I really think that what it is when you look outwardly at the people interacting with your content and the people that want to like get to know your athletes and want to be fans of your team, if you see that it's a diverse fan base, which it probably always is, and you're like really being like, okay, like since we have this Latino population, we should bring someone in that is Latinx, that maybe can create some Spanish, like, you know, content and can help us speak to that audience, which going back to like Las Mayores and MLB, they do a great job of it. But I think more teams need to do that as well. Like, I think especially those that are in different, like that have Latino athletes, and Juliana and I talk about this all the time. You can't represent a Latino athlete probably unless you're Latino and you understand where they come from, the way that they speak. And a lot of times that's not possible with their social media departments or with marketing. And I think it's just really important that you reflect what your fan base is in your front office and what your athletes are on the field in your front office, so that it is all like one community and like one image together.
With the Coyotes, when you had them on, when did you have, I forget, did you name the person that was on?
Yeah, it was Javier Gutierrez in April.
Oh, you did say that. Okay. Javier Gutierrez. What did he say that they're doing specific? Did he talk about specifics like, here's what we're doing to try to create these opportunities and look at more of a diverse pool?
They're literally starting off with introducing the sport of hockey to the Latinx community, because that's not.
How are they doing that? And like, what are they specific
literally
campaign?
building rinks, or they're building more rinks in Arizona. Like, that's where we both are right now. They are doing like street hockey, because that's where the basics start. So it's literally like taking baby steps and showing people like what the sport is, because most people in Arizona, it's crazy. Like, there's a hockey team in Arizona. Like, that in itself is crazy. It's in the middle of the desert. But like, when you have the mass amount of that Latinx population in Arizona who don't come from countries where like you see hockey at all, like you literally have to start from scratch. So that's what they're doing. Like, a lot of youth initiatives, and then just like teaching the basics.
Their social media too. She just left to the Rams actually, but her name is Patti, and she's one of our community members. And the things that she did on their social media account for like Latinx and like Spanish, like I was like, wow, this is it. Like, this is what every team should do. Like, it was so relatable, and it was, exactly how someone that was, Spanish that was Latinx, like would speak in Spanish about hockey and like everything. Like, you could tell that there was an authentic Latino on the other side of the account. And I think that's something also that we talk about a lot of times and we've talked about in our panels. So many teams just like stick it in Google Translate and they just like think that's how it works. And we're like, that's not how we talk. Like, it's just not. Like, there's like some words in there that it's just like not, no. So, like, that's what I think that speaks to what I kind of said before. Like, it's about hiring those individuals that can authentically tell you, like, this is my experience as a fan on the other side, and this is how we can appeal to our fan base to continue growing it and to make them feel like they're being seen and being heard, like, within the team, and that they're important to us.
It's also like on the employee side, like once the employees are there, how are you going to further develop them? Like, what is their growth plan? So we have a lot of our Latinx community members are leaders in their ERGs or employee resource groups. Those have been huge throughout the past year because of all the racial tensions. That's been like everything that's been going on in our country. Like, diversity has really taken a huge leap in the workplace because it's really had to. Like you said, a lot of it is performative, but there are people in these ERGs who are like, okay, what next? Like, we've been talking about diversifying the workplace and like more community initiatives within our like population. Like, how are we actually implementing them? And it's these people in the ERGs that are like constantly pushing in the organizations to like actually make that happen. So
what are some ideas that some of your members have presented to their employers to do stuff like this?
So my mom works for the Dodgers, so I know this like firsthand because I see the programming all the time. She works in the minor league. She does educational development for them, and she doesn't come from a sports background. So she's actually we call her a consultant on Latinx in sports because she has a plethora of education knowledge and like programming knowledge that she brings to us. But they're actually starting like they did their first, it's like a talk. They just bring in someone from the community, not a sports professional, and they talked about Cesar Chavez. Like, that's what they did. And it doesn't have to be sports programming necessarily, but just kind of like creating valuable conversation that goes outside of our bubble. Like, we get stuck in our little sports bubble all the time, and like, you have to look at what it is on the outside as well. So bringing in like those outside opinions, I think is really important. Or them pushing for like consultants or multicultural like budgets, because a lot of the times that has to happen internally. Like, that doesn't just happen from like the greater CMOs or the marketing departments, because a lot of the times they don't reflect who we are. So pushing for those initiatives is a lot of what they do and what they have to start. And a lot of it gets pushed back. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that's organization, but that's what we've been hearing across the board from the people that lead ERGs is that, yeah, like they definitely want to start implementing programming, but there's always like, there's hesitation to do so.
Yeah. And I think another.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, why do you think there is that hesitation?
I think people are scared to invest in the Latino community because they don't know if there's going to be a return. Yeah.
Okay. But if you're in Arizona, I know hockey's different. Now I know I'm in LA, so I know, you know, the Dodgers is a different type of a deal. That's an easy sell, right? You don't have to pitch that to someone. They're like, I don't know if this is going to, you know, give us a return on investment. But it seems like in certain places it makes perfect sense. And it seems like in other places I could see a pushback. And we don't need to talk about specific places, but have there been reasons why there's pushback, like legitimate reasons? And legitimate, I don't mean that they should be actual reasons, but like they've had reasons as we don't think our market's big enough or whatever the thing is. Have you guys heard reasons? And again, don't name names or places or anything like that, but as far as like reasons as to why there is pushback outside of the return on investment type deal.
That's been the biggest one that I've heard from a couple of people, especially in states that aren't California, Arizona, like Texas, like places like that. Like let's say like the Midwest, where they just don't necessarily think that the audience is there to make money off of. But that's so transactional. Like people can see past like the Cinco de Mayo nights. Mm-hmm. No one is gonna want to like really buy into that, you know, like it takes more than that. And I think you have to look at it like multicultural marketing should be part of your, like that's not separate, like that is part of your marketing strategy, but like you don't have to segment it out. Like if you want to do it organically, you have to do it like all as one, like that has to be part of your strategy. It's not a one-off, it's not something you don't give budget to. Like you have to genuinely mean it and people see past the BS. And part of it is also like not hiring the right people. So you have people that don't look like your community who will be running these multicultural initiatives. And obviously you're not going to have a return on investment there because it's not authentic.
Yeah. And I think speaking to how we were saying like the different ideas, I know that something that I always say and I talk about, that's why we started Latinx in sports, was because we don't just stop being Latino when like Hispanic Heritage Month is over. Like we're Latino every other day of the week. So I think a lot of teams, I've heard that a lot of teams are now trying to kind of start implementing like Latino nights like once a month during their season versus like just during like the 1 month that we have. Because again, are
you talking like baseball or what are you talking teams in general on their social channels?
On their social channels, but also like, you know, different teams always have like a Hispanic night during the season. And if it falls during Hispanic Heritage Month, like that's usually what happens. Yeah. But I think a lot of times, kind of what Juliana said, that's more the transactional thing. Like it's just like this one time thing. So how can we do that more times? And, you know, so it is part of your regular game schedule, your regular like game theme, because we don't just stop being Latino when like the month is over and like we're still your fans even then. So like, for example, the Arizona Diamondbacks, they have this part in the stadium and it's called La Terraza, and it's open like every single weekend when they have weekend games during the season. And I think that's really cool because it's not only like these stands that they bring in during, you know, Hispanic Heritage Month, they do it all the time. And they always have like music up there and like piñatas and all this really awesome food. And I think that's really cool that they like know that we have a Hispanic, you know, fan demographic and they come and like we should include them all the time, you know, like when we're able to. So really taking initiatives like that where it's not just this one time thing or 2 times or during this whole entire month, and like really doing it more times because that's like just part of their fan base and they acknowledge them and they want to listen to them and include them.
I love that. That's cool. I wonder if they do something like that at the Dodgers. I haven't been to a Dodgers game in over, well, I don't know. Obviously pandemic last year, but like 2 or 3 years ago, I think I went to a Dodgers game. Are they, Juliana, do you know if they're specifically doing anything like that?
I mean, I feel like every time I go to Dodger Stadium, like all I hear is Spanish music, you know, like it's just, that's very much ingrained in like who the Dodgers are. It's part of their identity. And like, you have Los Dodgers, Like that's who they are. Like that's it. That is what I call them. That's what I got. That's what I grew up calling them, you know, like that's what my family has always called them. It's just very much like part of the history of the team in LA. Even if you look at like where the stadium is, Chavez Ravine, like obviously there's some problematic discourse that goes along with how they built the stadium, but like our roots are really in the working class of Los Angeles, especially with our fan base. So
yeah, no doubt. I don't know the history behind the ravine,
oh,
but I'm sure
that's
it's
a good
good.
read.
If you,
That's a good read.
I will look into that. I will look into that. So let's talk about Latinx in sports again. For you guys specifically in your group. So you have 260 members. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. How are you continuing to grow, and what are you guys doing to grow your group to help grow Latinx jobs in sports, period?
Yeah. So like Juliana said, we're launching our mentorship program here in the next couple of months, which is super exciting because that's something that we kind of going along with networking. We definitely know that it's like a very overwhelming word, and it's definitely a word that's turned around. Like my mentor, oh, I'm part of a mentorship program. Juliana got a mentor, I think around the same time as I did. She got matched with one through an organization, and I just found one because I saw her on a panel for LAFC, and I was like, this is just, she's great. So I was like, after talking to her a few times, I was like, will you be my mentor? And it was great. And I talk to her all the time, but we really wanted to figure out a way to create a program that wasn't, you know, us like matching them, but also would create opportunities for them to be able to reach out to these professionals that were willing to be mentors, so that they can find a mentor and they can find someone that can guide them through like the process of, you know, applying to jobs or like interviewing tips, or maybe like they'll be able to help them apply for a job, or maybe they know someone there. So that's definitely something that we're launching to continue our growth and to continue providing like valuable resources to them. But really just social media, like Juliana said, that's really just like where our bread and butter is. And we're always on there sharing jobs within, you know, the sports industry, content, articles, you know, like memes here and there. So really just like trying to cultivate that community, because that's what we want at the end of the day. Like we are trying to make sure that no matter how big we grow, it'll still always feel like a family. Because I can speak to it. When we had our networking call in January, so from December to January, we didn't really have any events because it was like Christmas and New Year's and all things like that. I came off the networking call in January and I was like, I missed these people so much in the last month that like I didn't get to talk to them. And I can speak to it. I think a lot of people feel the way that I felt, but it was like, this was my little family, my community. And I look forward to talking to them once a month and to seeing them and to cracking jokes, because we do keep it informal, like Juliana said. So really, as we continue growing and more people get involved, and hopefully one day we get to do in-person events, really just always feeling like we're a family and that we can, you know, hey, I'm doing this. Do you know someone there? Hey, I really want advice about this. Like, can, you know, do you know some, point me in the right direction? Like, that's what we want to be, is a resource that's authentic, you know, at the end of the day.
We've also talked about working with ERGs across the industry as well, because those really are like such a driving force right now, as I spoke about earlier. So like being that like bridge between ERGs, because I think it would be really helpful for these people who are starting initiatives, and they're the ones pushing like the conversation and the envelope in organizations, and like seeing what they've done at their own organizations, and like seeing if there's any like tips, tricks, advice that they can bring to each other to really like empower these ERGs across the board. So serving as like a connector there.
Have you guys reached out to the different teams, leagues? You're on the brand side, Juliana. Have you guys reached out and looked for that person and said, hey, we'd love you to join us? And obviously you had speakers and whatnot, but how hard have you worked on reaching out and doing that specific outreach to those types of people?
It's been, right now our priority is launching the mentorship program. So that's kind of been like where our efforts have been in for the most part. We have reached out to people like individually to kind of like put feelers out. But I know that once our mentorship program is launched, that's really going to be like our focus, is seeing how we can like get our name out there and see how like we can work with them and like how we can service them, or building that ERG like networking community, since a lot of them are already connected. Like the industry is small, like they know each other, they know what the other ERGs are doing, but like having a platform to them, for them to like come speak and learn from each other would be our like next venture, I think.
Yeah. And we definitely have members too that are involved in their ERGs, or we're the ones that started the ERG. So we're like, oh, we know, like, it's really just like us. And I think the other thing is, like, we don't really know sometimes who is in the ERG within the organization, or if even the organization has an ERG. Like, unless someone really tells us, then it's kind of hard for us to gauge, like, hey, do you have one? If you do, like, can we put it, can we contact them? So really just making sure that the ones that we already do know, it's kind of asking them, okay, like, for example, a lot of our community is in California, and they all know one another. Like,
Everyone.
they literally know everyone knows everyone over there. And it's really funny seeing from being in Arizona and like looking on California, like everyone knows everyone. And it's great. So like, we kind of know, like, that's not really taken care of, but also like we just know people over there. So really now seeing like what it is like on the East Coast and like the Midwest, and figuring out like what their ERGs look like over there, and being able to connect East Coast, Midwest to California, and like seeing how they are relatable, and like what tactics they can both use and initiatives and things like that. But like Juliana said, it's definitely been our mentorship program, just going into now like another school year, because obviously a lot of our mentees will be college students. So making sure we launch that over the summer when we have the time to, and then going back to our ERGs and things like that after it's launched.
Cool. How can people join?
So they can follow us on Twitter or LinkedIn. It's Latinx in Sports. We have a Google form that's pinned on our Twitter, and it's our database. So really all it is your name, your email, what you currently do, whether you're a college student or already a sports professional, what your interests are, and if you'd like to receive like our emails. We really only send like 3 emails a month. Like I always tell people, I'm like, I'm not going to blow up your inbox, I promise. And really that's how you find out about our events. But yeah, it's really our database and our social media pages. Like we make sure that we always post a week in advance about our networking calls, and we have our panels as well. Like we always make sure that everyone is informed. We have a Slack channel as well that we share jobs, and like a lot of our community members who are journalists will share like their articles if they think like, someone in the group might want to read it and there's interest there. But yeah, that's really how you're able to join our community.
All right. Last thing I'm going to ask you guys, and then we'll get out of here. You'll get back to your weekend here. I mean, your Wednesday. But so us at Sports Biz Network, again, your goals are aligned with our goals, and we have a bunch of other stuff that we're doing here. Panels that are on for this virtual summit include creating diversity on your team, building a brand, creating partnerships, so we have people from different companies coming on, to innovation in sports and startups in these different worlds. How can we create panels and discussions, or what would you say as far as to best serve Latinx in sports or any other type of group? What can we be creating here to start facilitating those conversations around a broader type platform as well?
Alana?
Oh, I was gonna let you answer. I think really it's about acknowledging that there is a problem and that we need to talk about it, and like really like facilitating this conversation. So like the panels today, and like you said, all the future panels and think tanks and roundtables that Sports Biz Network will have in the future. But really, I think that's one of them. And then the other one is collaborations. I know that Juliana and I are always like seeking to partner up with other organizations. That like Scene, for example, is a huge one. They have like I want to say it's like a summit, right? A career one, Juliana? It's like
they do a pipeline program.
Yeah. They also already have a mentorship program, which some of our members are a part of. So really just creating those collaborations and those relationships, because I think at the end of the day, like you said, Pat, like we all have the same goals and the same aspirations, and it's just different avenues of going about it. So yeah, really just like making sure that we are helping each other out. And, if you see like an opportunity for like one organization being like, hey, like, here's this, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I know, for example, my friends that I have like on Twitter, they're always sending me jobs that they're like, hey, you should post this. Hey, there's this event. Cause everyone's Twitter feed looks different, right? And everyone sees different things. And it's really awesome that people know that what we're doing, and like we're in the back of their minds. And if they see something, like they send it to us and they tag us in it. So yeah, really just creating those relationships and helping each other out, I think is super important.
We also have like a plethora of really amazing Latinx professionals that if you guys ever need to like tap into for panels or whatever, like if you want that representation, like we have it ready for you, and like we'll pass along anyone in our network.
We do. Definitely. We have some great talent on our different panels over these next couple of days too. So we've got some. We definitely want more. Like I said, roundtables, think tanks, I'd love to have students come on and talk about their experience, like how they're trying to get jobs they've applied for, not heard back for, like all those types of things I think are important to discuss. Something I wished I would have been able to be a part of as a 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old in college, and then certainly right after college as well. Anything else to add to this?
No, I mean,
Alana, Juliana, I appreciate it.
thank you so much.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys.